Let's speak to Anne Atkins, novelist and author of Child Rearing for Fun. Anne, good morning. Thanks for your time.
Good morning. Not at all. Thank you for having me on.
Why shouldn't children in Scotland have the same protection from violence that their parents have?
Well, for two very good reasons. One is we're not talking about violence. Violence is outlawed. It is rightly, completely illegal to be violent towards a child. You cannot hit a child. Often there is confusion caused by calling smacking hitting. It is not hitting. Hitting is designed to hurt somebody as a violent act. This is not what we're talking about. Hurting a child as a violent act, of course, is illegal. Of course.
So what's smacking designed to do, Anne?
Smacking is part of the palette, the discipline and love palette, if you like. Now, we all know, if we've had children or if we've got any common sense whatsoever, that we need to guide children. We need to encourage them to do right, and occasionally, sadly, we need to discourage them from doing wrong. Everybody knows that, right? Now, if you're going to discourage a child from doing wrong, you have to find a disincentive, whether that's sitting on the naughty stair, whether it's going up to their bedroom, whether it's, doing 100 lines of Latin or whatever it is. You have to find a disincentive for doing that thing again. And that's what smacking is. Now, you may not like it. You may think there are better disincentives. That's entirely your prerogative, if you're a parent too, for you to decide the best disincentive for your child. It's somebody else's prerogative as the parent and the expert in that child to decide what is the kindest and the most effective and the quickest and the simplest and the least damaging and the least distressing way of preventing that child from doing that action again.
Who says it's least damaging, Anne? University of Texas study, 160,000 people found smacking had, quotes, severe unintended outcomes, including mental health problems and lower cognitive ability in those that were smacked.
Right. You say who decides whether it's damaging or not? The parent. That's what this whole thing is about. The expert in the child is the parent, not the politician, not the psychiatrist, actually. The expert in the child are the two people who brought that child into being and love the child more than anybody else in the world. And woe betide us when we step between the parent and the child, because it is always damaging for the child. Now, of course, when there is real abuse taking place, which is incredibly rare, and it's much more rare in an intact family. Most abuse takes place in a family that was already not intact. But
what do you mean by intact?
By the two biological parents of the child who are legally tied. And those two things, biology and the law, as in the law of marriage, are huge protectors of a child, if you look at the statistics. But let's go there, because that's a different argument, and it's a very
That's a different phone-in, I suspect. What about the wider message, Anne, that we're giving out here in society? You go into any A&E department in Scotland tonight, and you will see victims of violence. Isn't the wider message that we're giving out here to the youngest people when they're forming opinions in life that violence is acceptable, that a way of sorting out a problem is to raise your hand?
Violence is not acceptable. You're going back to where this discussion started. Have we not got anywhere? This is not violence. Violence is illegal, and rightly so. We're talking about a form of discipline, a quick smack on the back of the hand or the thigh or whatever it might be, instead of being sent up to your room for half an hour.
Well, that's your view. I think a child would feel that it was violence from their parents. That's the point of this.
Of course they don't. Of course a child doesn't feel that a disciplinary smack is violence. That's absolute nonsense. Look, when our children, I'll give you an anecdote from bringing up our children. We've got 5 children, and we haven't smacked them very much, and I think the youngest we never smacked at all. I don't think it's essential by any means whatsoever. When the 2 middle ones of our elder 4 were 4 and 5, they were a very close team because there were only a year between them. I came across them having done something incredibly naughty. We were doing our house up at the time, and we, doing lots of painting, and they had come across a claw hammer, and they had smashed up the panel of a door with it, right? Incredibly naughty, right? I came across these two, and I was gobsmacked, right? What do you do? And I said, do you know you've been very naughty? And they went, yep. And I said, okay, do you think you should be punished? And they went, yep. And I said, all right, okay. I mean, I wasn't cross. I just, we've got to deal with this. And I said, okay, I could send you to your rooms for a while, and you won't be allowed down for, some time. Or I could give you each a smack, and that'll be over and done with. It'll probably be a hard smack because you've been very naughty, but which would you prefer? And they looked at each other and they went, we'll take the smack.
But here's the question. Did it stop them from doing anything like that again?
Of course it did. They never smashed a door up again. They knew perfectly well that it was naughty. They knew, therefore, that they ought to have some kind of sanction. And anything, if they hadn't had a sanction, that would have felt wrong to them. And they chose the sanction that was over quickest. And why not? Split second and it's gone, and we can run out in the garden and forget the whole thing.
You see, the problem with all this, Anne, though, and we've got into some of this morning, is where do you draw the line in this? Because you and I seem to have a different view of what violence is on this.
Draw the line. The law does draw the line. The law and the law was changed about, when was it, 10 or 15 years ago, and rightly so. The law was changed to say you must not leave a mark. Quite right. If you leave a mark on a child, you haven't smacked it, you've hit it, and that is wrong and it's illegal. So that is, the law is constantly having to draw the line between one thing and another thing. And there are lots of ways. And the thing is that once the state interferes in the family, that is already a very damaging thing.